For more than half a century, mentioning Rod Stewart meant evoking a storm of energy filling packed stadiums around the world. People remembered him for his trademark wild hair, his irresistibly raspy voice, his tight leather trousers, his enormous collection of platinum records, and some of the most extravagant mansions imaginable. Beneath the stage lights, Rod always appeared with the arrogant grin of a wandering rogue favored by fate, a man who seemed born to belong to a world of glamour and parties that never ended. Yet time is always the fairest and cruelest judge of all. At the age of 81, when his dance moves on stage had slowed and the spotlight had gradually begun giving way to silence and reflection, Rod Stewart started looking back on his past with a level of honesty that was surprisingly rare. He no longer spoke enthusiastically about Guinness records or massive sales figures. Instead, the aging man spent more time reflecting on family, on the women who had passed through his life, and especially on the enormous price he had paid for fame. Behind the countless broken marriages and sensational tabloid headlines, one great question always remained unanswered. Among the many beautiful women who entered his life, who was truly the love of his life? And what exactly had Rod Stewart sacrificed? How much pain had he endured before finally understanding the true value of happiness on the far side of life's journey? Before becoming the multi-millionaire rock rogue who dominated music charts across the world, Rod Stewart was simply a working-class boy growing up amidst the gloomy yet resilient atmosphere of post-war Britain. Born in 1945 in Highgate, North London, Rod Stewart was the youngest child in a working-class Scottish family. His childhood was shaped by old red brick houses and the struggles of a large household trying to survive. Rod's father, a strict but loving Scottish man, held one burning dream above all else: to see his youngest son become a professional footballer. Long before music entered his life, football was Rod's first love, his only true passion. The past of the future rock superstar contained no formal preparation for fame. Those teenage years were ordinary and somewhat wild. To earn money and support himself, Rod took on countless small working-class jobs, delivering newspapers, assisting in a printing shop, and even digging graves at Highgate Cemetery. In the mind of that teenage boy, life was nothing more than endless days spent wandering the streets, playing casual football matches at weekends, and having absolutely no concrete vision of a dazzling future beneath stage lights. It was precisely those humble roots and difficult years surviving in North London that shaped Rod Stewart into such a grounded and free-spirited man. They gave him a realistic worldview, something he would never lose later in life, no matter how many millions of pounds he accumulated. Football and the rough streets of London gave him endurance, resilience, and an ego that refused to surrender to hardship, preparing him for the fateful turning point when he picked up a harmonica and stepped into the world of music. London during the 1960s was a period of fierce transformation in history. Britain was shedding the gloomy, deprived image of the post-war years and entering the explosive era of rock and roll culture. Amid that wave of change, Rod Stewart began drifting through local clubs, surviving with his naturally raspy voice and a harmonica tucked into his pocket. He never tried to appear aristocratic or intellectual. He sang with the sound of the working class, raw, honest, and overflowing with a longing for freedom. The real opportunity arrived when Rod joined the Jeff Beck Group, and especially Faces, the band famously regarded as the wildest group in Britain. Faces did not simply perform music. They brought to the stage the reckless freedom of dockside boys. They drank heavily, rebelled fiercely, and lived every performance as though it were a full-blown celebration. It was within that environment that Rod's unique performing style was truly born. However, the greatest turning point, the moment that completely transformed Rod Stewart's destiny, came with the release of Maggie May in 1971. Initially, the song had merely been placed on the B-side of a single, but its rustic melody combined with acoustic guitar, mandolin, and Rod's deeply narrative raspy vocals created a cultural earthquake. Maggie May swept across the charts from Britain to America, transforming Rod Stewart overnight from an underground favorite into a global icon. Fame arrived suddenly and violently, opening the door to a new era in which money, glory, and beautiful women began surrounding every aspect of his life. Global fame transformed Rod Stewart into one of the most powerful media magnets of the 1970s. Yet alongside the wealth and endless touring came a reckless lifestyle in which romantic relationships became both a source of artistic inspiration and some of the deepest wounds in his private life. The international success that followed Maggie May not only changed Rod Stewart's musical status, but also turned him into one of the greatest tabloid obsessions of the decade. Alongside the money and endless world tours came a chaotic lifestyle, where romance became both overflowing artistic inspiration and a painful series of emotional scars. Looking back on the road he traveled, every woman who entered the rogue's life represented a different chapter, a completely different version of himself. It was a journey from a desperately poor young man to a multi-millionaire superstar standing at the top of the world. Yet few people realized that from the very beginning of adulthood, one youthful romance left him carrying a sorrow and regret that he would never fully escape, even in old age. In the late 1960s, when Rod Stewart was still an unknown singer struggling to find his place in London, he experienced a passionate but immature romance with a young woman named Susanna Boffey. The result of that youthful love was the birth of their daughter, Sarah Streeter, in 1963. Yet both were still under 20 years old, with no money and no career, completely terrified of the future. Caught in the desperation of working-class poverty, they made the heartbreaking decision to place their daughter up for adoption because neither of them was emotionally prepared to become parents. That silent separation became a wound that never fully healed, one of the deepest regrets of Rod Stewart's entire life. It took many decades until he had become an elderly man with grey hair before he was finally able to seek reconciliation and make amends with his daughter. When international fame truly arrived, Rod Stewart plunged into an era of glamorous romances where some of the world's most beautiful women constantly surrounded him. His life quickly became the obsession of tabloid newspapers. His relationship with Swedish actress Britt Ekland became the defining symbol of Rod's glamorous lifestyle during the 1970s. They were once the golden couple of the entertainment world, appearing on every red carpet dressed in dazzling outfits while living a lavish lifestyle. However, that radiant and passionate love quickly collapsed. The main reason was the overwhelming pressure of endless touring and the instability of a rock star intoxicated by success. Not long afterwards, in 1979, Rod officially entered his first marriage with Alana Hamilton, the former wife of actor George Hamilton. That marriage brought him 2 children and a home that appeared perfectly complete. Yet once again, the brutal machinery of fame and the endless nights of partying in Hollywood pulled him away. The selfish lifestyle of a major star gradually created an unbridgeable gulf between the husband and wife. That silent yet ruthless fracture eventually led to the inevitable collapse of their marriage in 1984. Rod Stewart had obtained everything a man could desire, from fame and fortune to the most beautiful women in the world. But he also came to realize bitterly that the machine of fame was slowly consuming his ability to build a genuine home. It turned him into a lonely man in the middle of his own golden age, leaving behind enormous emptiness every time the stage lights faded away. After years of wild living and emotional turbulence, the 1990s opened a new chapter in Rod Stewart's life when he met Rachel Hunter. The supermodel from New Zealand, 24 years younger than him, brought with her an entirely different kind of energy, softening the reckless ego of the rock and roll wanderer. Rachel Hunter's arrival in 1990 was not merely a new romance, but a sincere connection that deeply changed Rod Stewart as a person. By Rachel's side, he discovered a sense of peace he had never known before. The man of extravagant parties gradually became gentler, less flamboyant, and genuinely longed for a real family life. They quickly married and had 2 children together. For a long time, the public believed that the infamous womanizer had finally settled down. Rod himself made every effort to be a good husband and father, trying to separate family life from the noise of the entertainment world. Yet reality proved harsher than he had expected. Although Rod wanted stability, the enormous machine of fame, known as Rod Stewart, never stopped moving. A relentless recording schedule, international tours lasting for months, and endless interviews left no room for a normal family life to exist. Geographical distance and time slowly consumed their marriage. Rachel, still very young at the time, felt suffocated and isolated beneath the overwhelming shadow of both her husband and the lifestyle of a global superstar. She wanted to rediscover her own identity rather than simply being known as Rod Stewart's wife. The tragedy finally arrived in 1999 when Rachel decided to leave him. This heartbreak carried a weight and pain entirely different from his previous failed relationships. By the time the marriage ended, Rod had already entered his 50s, an age at which a man no longer possesses the arrogance of youth that allows him to easily forget emotional wounds. Rod Stewart admitted that he was completely devastated, suffering so deeply that he could neither eat nor sleep properly for many months. It was the first time the charming wanderer had been abandoned by a woman, and it was also the moment he truly understood the price of loss when fame and glory could not buy the love of a woman. After the emotional storm named Rachel Hunter, Rod Stewart believed he would permanently close the doors of his heart. Yet fate smiled upon him once again when Penny Lancaster entered his life in the late 1990s. Penny Lancaster arrived at exactly the right moment. By then, she was not meeting the arrogant and reckless rock star of his glory years. Instead, she encountered a more honest, more mature version of Rod Stewart, a man who had just endured profound heartbreak and emotional scars. With her striking height, intelligence, and above all her compassionate heart, Penny brought Rod the understanding he had long been searching for. She was not dazzled by his fame, but appreciated the real man behind the stage. Penny's love was like a stream of cool water, slowly healing the emotional wounds of the aging wanderer. However, their greatest challenge did not come from the tabloids, but from cruel fate itself. In 2000, only a short time after they had begun their relationship, Rod Stewart was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. For a singer, it was nothing less than a death sentence for his career. Rod was forced to confront his greatest fear. Not only the fear of losing his life, but the fear of losing his voice, the very thing that had defined his entire identity. Throughout that painful and emotionally silent period, Penny never left his side. She became his strongest emotional support, standing beside him through the dark days following surgery to remove the tumor. Their perseverance was rewarded when Rod gradually recovered, and remarkably, his signature raspy voice returned. After surviving the edge of life and death together, they realized they could not live without each other. Their romantic wedding in Italy in 2007 became proof of that enduring love. The ceremony was private and intimate, marking a major turning point in Rod Stewart's life. He officially abandoned the reckless lifestyle of his past and stepped into a new chapter, more discreet, more stable, and entirely devoted to the woman who had rescued his life. In old age, Rod Stewart has bravely faced his past with a rare honesty. He has openly admitted the selfish mistakes of his youth, particularly the way he mistreated former romantic partners. The arrogance of a multi-million-dollar star once made him see himself as the center of the world, unintentionally leaving emotional scars on the women who had sincerely loved him. His greatest regret now lies not in career failures, but in the moments he missed with his children. The endless touring schedule of a rock star robbed him of the opportunity to truly fulfill his role as a father during the years his children needed him most. He came to understand that expensive checks and luxurious gifts could never compensate for the absence of a father. For the Rod of today, the meaning of love has completely changed. It is no longer about explosive passion, wild nights, or the desire to possess the world's most beautiful women. Love in old age is a compassionate collection of memories, forgiven mistakes, and the quiet presence of a life partner by one's side. It is precisely this honesty, this refusal to hide from the darker corners of his life, that has allowed Rod Stewart to maintain his special place in the hearts of the British public. People admire him not only for his timeless love songs, but because he represents endurance and sincerity. A man brave enough to live truthfully with both the heights of glory and the ordinary flaws of human nature. Rod Stewart achieved every dream a working-class boy from North London could ever have imagined. He gained wealth, fame, the admiration of millions, and a life more dazzling than most could believe possible. Yet it took nearly an entire lifetime for him to realize one simple truth. Success and happiness are not necessarily the same thing. The thunderous applause in packed stadiums will eventually fade away, the dazzling stage lights will eventually go dark, and the only thing left to truly warm a human soul is family. For a wanderer who survived the wild years of rock and roll and overcame the brutality of cancer, simply waking up each morning has become an extraordinary blessing. Now the most meaningful moments in Sir Rod Stewart's life are no longer the endless late-night parties. They are the strangely simple moments, sitting beside his children watching a football match, holding Penny's hand during an evening walk, and quietly smiling in gratitude for surviving a lifetime of storms. Behind the brilliance of a musical legend, Rod Stewart has finally found the most peaceful destination of his life, a place where he can truly be himself, a happy man beyond the applause.